Hello everyone, welcome to a video dedicated to MMOs, the most played massively multiplayer online games in 2025. I have prepared a video for you in which I will present more than 15 MMOs that are the games the most played, the most popular currently. So I cross-reference data, I try to find sources, figures. It's very complicated. Not many developers or publishers are going to provide their attendance figures. So basically, I rank the games by the number of players connected simultaneously, meaning the number of players you can find, for example, in the evening when you log in, all the players who are connected at the same time, at the same moment. There are connection peaks every day depending on the games, which are different. Some games offer APIs. We can gather data. There are tools like SteamDB that are useful for games on Steam, for example. We can also go through the financial results of publishers and so on. So I have made this selection, this top list, this ranking that you will also find. In the description, I'll put all the links to the games I'm going to present. Feel free to react now in the comments to tell me what you think of this top, this selection, this ranking. And I'll also take this opportunity to announce that there is the secondary channel, Casamania Gameplay, available. Feel free to subscribe. As I speak, we are at about 410 to 415. Currently, there is a Let's Play on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but also other more independent games. I'm trying to show you other games, things you might not know yet, and that step a little away from MMOs on this secondary channel. It's in the description. Subscribe, it's free, and thank you for the support. Let's go. Here are the most played MMOs in 2025. Let's start with Stay Out, which shows about 2,500 concurrent connections each evening. I remind you, Stay Out is a stalker-like post-apocalyptic free game where you will progress in third-person view. It's quite hardcore, it's quite difficult. It combines PvE, exploration of PvE. Right after, we will find Lord of the Rings online in a retro MMORPG. No, but it still maintains a solid player base. It's estimated between 2,000 and 3,000 connected each evening. You can launch the game via Steam. On Steam, there are about 1,500 connected, but you can also launch the game via its official and historic launcher. Expect between 2,000 and 3,000 players connected each evening for this retro MMO based on the Lord of the Rings license. We are still waiting for a new generation Lotro MMO. In the news, a game I introduced to you in gameplay discovery, there's the Quinfall. The Quinfall has arrived in early access, a beta. Well, here's a beta. It's not great technically, though there are still some ideas in this game. Not everything should be discarded. There are quite a few ideas. We have to see how it turns out and see if the developers will manage to make it evolve over the weeks and months. In any case, currently the Quinfall, a new MMO release, has about 4,000 players. So it is going down because people are quite disappointed with the intrinsic quality of the game, but let's still keep an eye on it. Maybe it will be able to bounce back with some technical refinement. Let's continue this selection, this top list with Foxhole. Foxhole is a game that claims about 5,000 players connected every evening. I remind you of Foxhole is an MMO. It's a game in which hundreds and thousands of players meet on a unique map for waging wars that can last several weeks. It is a game with real-time strategic gameplay seen from above. Know that if you are interested in this game, Foxhole, which you like, it has existed for years, and the developers are working on a medieval version called MV Empires, which should be arriving soon. In the MMORPG news, let's also mention Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, released at the end of the year 2024, claiming about 5,000 connected each evening. Pantheon, on the other hand, attracts for fans of retro old school challenges. I think it is very suitable for MMO players who started MMOs more than 20 years ago. It resembles games like EverQuest. It might irritate some. The gameplay is slow, leveling is long, you can't play alone, you have to play in a group. In short, there is all the social aspect we had in MMOs. So a good surprise for this MMO that claims 5,000 simultaneous players. In other news, we have Corepunk. It's very difficult to find figures on Corepunk. I managed to find estimates made by developers, so it's not very clear. We can estimate that in Corepunk there are a little less than 10,000 players who connect every day. Simultaneously, there you go, Corepunk, I remind you, offers a science fiction atmosphere, offbeat humor, a high level of difficulty, and top-down gameplay a bit like a MOBA. Now let's move on to the games that are a bit more popular and exceed 10,000 connections per day. We can already mention Star Wars The Horde, Republic, a free MMORPG that has been around for a very long time. It is a game that has about 15,000 simultaneous players every day. Out of these, there are already 7,000 simultaneous players every day via Steam. The daily connection peak on Steam is 7,000. Knowing that Star Wars The Horde Republic is available on Origin as the official launcher, it can be estimated double this figure with approximately 15,000 players simultaneously every day for this Star Wars MMO, which remains quite decent in very retro MMOs, and that defines a generation and is still running. There is Maplestory. Maplestory, yes, it maintains an impressive popularity already with its accessible gameplay, its colorful universe, and I think there are many players who perhaps started online games with Maplestory, so there is also a bit of retro nostalgia. Very difficult to find numbers on this game. It is estimated between 10,000 very low estimates and 20,000 connected each evening high estimates, so that's why it is compared to Star Wars The Horde. Let's move on to another stage with games that accumulate more than 20,000 connected players every day simultaneously. I remind you, we can mention Stalcraft X, which was simply called Stalcraft before. Stalcraft X is a free game. It's a game that combines the MMO genre and survival in a post-apocalyptic world as well. Type Stalker, except we have this slightly cubical Minecraft graphic side. It's not realistic, it's cubical Minecraft, it's nice. There's PvE. The game is available on Steam, reaching peaks of 20,000 players connected every evening, which is quite good for this game that you might not even know about. Right after, here's a big MMORPG, Lost Ark. Lost Ark indeed was released 3 years ago, and over the months, weeks and years, its active player base completely dropped, which is quite normal. There was a lot of hype at its release, it decreased over time, and now we currently have 25,000 concurrent connections each day. So this must also be balanced because the game is known for being plagued by bots, and I just hope that half of the connected players aren't bots. That would be a real shame. So there you have it. Lost Ark is still a game that gathers 25,000 concurrent connections every day, which isn't bad at all. Among well-known games, we will also find RuneScape 3. Yes, it's the 3D version of RuneScape, which also will gather about 25,000 players connected simultaneously every evening. So it attracts people certainly, but it attracts far fewer people than the old school version, which is the historical version, and is truly overwhelming in terms of popularity. We'll talk about it at the end of this video. Well, 25,000 players on RuneScape 3 is pretty good. Then we'll move on to games with a player cap of over 30,000 connected simultaneously each day, and we'll start with EVE Online. EVE Online, Wish, an MMORPG that is over 20 years old, almost 25 years, a space MMO that is and can also be played for free. So we're dealing with a complex MMO, a difficult MMO, an MMO that requires quite a long learning time. Here it's easier because we have official number with approximately 30,000 connected at peak times. So every day there are at least 30,000 people who play EVE Online simultaneously. That's still really good for a game of that age. Bravo to the old one. In other more recent games, let's mention Once Human, which has lost quite a few players since its release. It remains a free game and it remains quite accessible in a post-apocalyptic survival universe in a rather arcade, easy to handle, but nice because you can do buildings almost anywhere, crafting and so on. The game counts 30,000 simultaneous users each evening. There were many more before. It's beginning to decline over the weeks, but it is still quite respectable. In more recent games, we had a re-release, remember, at the end of the year 2024. It's New World with the New World Eternal version. So here it's very difficult to find numbers because as much as for PC players, we can find the numbers via SteamDB through certain APIs that give you the populations on the servers, but the PC populations, knowing that the game is still cross-platform and very popular on console, so it is very difficult to find exact figures. We can estimate that New World Aeternum manages to have peak connections of about 30,000 every day. There are 30,000 players logging in every day on New World to play. In other games with this type of popularity, we can mention Tron en Liberté, which was also released at the same time as New World Aeternum. Tron en Liberté is a game that we have heard a lot about, which had a huge peak connection in its first days and then completely collapsed afterward. Free MMO, which remains an important title in the MMO scene, but is a somewhat dying title, struggling to maintain a slightly higher player base, especially since it is still an Amazon AAA game and so on. There are approximately 35,000 connected every day on Throne of Liberty. It's still reasonable, but it could have been better considering that the game has only existed for a few months. We are now going to move into the top tier, the games that captured the most players in the MMO market, massively multiplayer online games. We start with Guild Wars 2. Similarly, Guild Wars 2 very difficult to get numbers because it is available on Steam. It arrived very late on Steam, so the active player base for years is not on Steam. It is on the official launcher, for which we don't have the numbers. We can find some estimates. We can peel through NCSoft's annual reports to see a little bit of what it shows. It is estimated that for Guild Wars 2, there are between 40,000 and 60,000 players connected simultaneously each day. It's still a good player base. It's still a very popular game, especially knowing it is also available for free on the vanilla version. Then you have all the expansions. On the next level, just after Guild Wars 2, we find the Elder Scrolls Online, which is also very difficult to find numbers to give an idea of simultaneous connections each day. Teso, it is also a game that is available on Steam. Is also a game that is available through its official launcher historically, and it is mainly a game that is cross-play, cross-platform and playable also on console. There are regular expansions which helps maintain some hype and keep players engaged for the long term. It is estimated that on Teso, the Elseran Online, there are between 60,000 and 80,000 players connected simultaneously each evening. It is roughly on par with Guild Wars. Guild Wars 2, an ultra popular game and about the same age, which are games roughly from the same generation. Now let's move on to another stage with games that will nearly reach 100,000 players connected per day. We propose Black Desert Online, a game that is particularly popular in Asia. Globally, it is really in Asia where its fan base is most active, even though in Europe and North America, it remains a very well-known and well-regarded game. In terms of estimates for Black Desert Online, it is estimated that there are a little less of 100,000 players connecting simultaneously on these servers worldwide, which is quite huge, which is starting to boom. Let's now move on to the 100,000 mark, the biggest MMOs, massively multiplayer game worldwide that gathers more active players every day. We're already going to talk about Albion Online. It will take many things. It offers easy to learn gameplay at first glance with a top-down view. Is a sandbox game, initially quite accessible though difficult to master. Is a game available on PC with many servers opened worldwide, whether in Europe, America or Asia. And it's a game that is also playable via mobile and plays very well on mobile. So it's really a game with huge popularity, and it's considered that Albion Online manages to accommodate more than 100,000 connected players every day. So during the opening of Europe's server, for example, to give you an idea, there was a peak connection of 357,000 players, which is enormous. And so generally speaking, we consider that Albion Online hosts at least 100,000 players at peak connection times. In similar terms, we're going to talk about an MMO with Abadmon. It's Final Fantasy XIV. So certainly there are times when expansions are released, and it is often at those times the peak moments when there are the most active players, and gradually over the months it decreases again. Be aware that the expansions of Final Fantasy XIV are released roughly every 2 years. There is always this phenomenon of a peak in connections and then it drops a bit, so it needs to be smoothed out over the months and years. I consider that Final Fantasy XIV has more than 100,000 simultaneous connections per day, and I'm really talking about players who connect at the same time in the evening. I'm not talking about active accounts. Active accounts are the ones with valid subscriptions. There are millions of those. It's not because there are 5 million people with an active subscription that they will all connect the same evening at the same time. No, that's not possible. So out of the 5 to 6 million accounts with active subscription, it's considered that there are about 100,000 people connecting at the same time every evening on the FXV servers. Well, for me, it remains one of the games with the best PvE, and you know, I have a Let's Play series on which I show you that you can have fun on Final Fantasy XIV with a free account for the long term. Remember to join me, the link is in the description. Well, at the very top, we will talk about old school. RuneScape, so the old school version of RuneScape, which has been around for over 20 years, which is a version that offers a game easy to pick up and understand but difficult to master. And it's a game that doesn't require a high configuration, which can be played by everyone around the world, whether on small PCs or also on mobile or even through web pages. So that's also what makes this game's popularity. It's its technological accessibility in countries where people don't necessarily have powerful PCs and where they don't necessarily have the money to invest in a game. You can play RuneScape. Know that RuneScape servers host more than 100,000 players simultaneously every day, which is huge for a game that is over 25 years old. We finish with the MMO that brings together the most active community around the world is simply World of Warcraft. Now it's very difficult to get official figures on the server population of WoW. It's estimated that there are about 7 million active accounts with active subscriptions on World of Warcraft, which is enormous. So we can estimate much more than 100,000 connected simultaneously each day. There must be peaks also on weekends that are much higher, but we cannot speculate on the numbers. What makes the strength of WoW now in 2025 is that it is available in different versions with a single account. You have an account, a subscription, you can play WoW Classic, WoW Era, WoW Anniversary, WoW Retail. In short, you have all these different options, the same game and in different versions that allow for fun, and it remains the undisputed king of MMORPGs. We'll see, friends, as we conclude the overview of the most populated and popular games in 2025 in the MMORPG market. Tell me what you think. Thank you for reacting in the comments. I really invite you to join the secondary channel. The link is in the description. I say see you very soon. You can find all the mentioned games in the description. Thank you for your thumbs up, sharing, subscription. That was Kaz. Take care and see you next time. Bye everyone.